I did not forget our anniversary. Harold Wade stood in his own kitchen, gripping the counter like it might slide away. Afternoon light slanted through the window, dust motes spinning slow in the heat. His coffee sat untouched on the table, gone cold an hour ago. Christine looked at him with eyes he didn't recognize anymore. Clinical, measuring, like he was a specimen under glass. "Honey, the flowers," she said. Her voice had that careful gentleness doctors use on confused patients. "Where are they?" Harold turned to the counter. Empty. But he remembered. The bell over the florist's door, the smell of lilies, putting them in the truck. He could see it, feel it. "There, I bought them. I know I did." Dr. Marcus Thornton shifted in Harold's own chair, fingers drumming the table, impatient. Christine slid a folded paper across the wood. "This is exactly what we need to talk about." But that was only the beginning. Harold stared at the paper. "Power of attorney," the header read. Legal language swam beneath it, dense and foreign. "What is this?" Christine settled into the chair across from him, the chair where they'd shared 40 years of morning coffee, grocery lists, quiet Sunday crosswords. Now Marcus Thornton occupied the chair beside her, white coat still on like he'd come straight from rounds, which he had. Christine had brought him home. "Harold, sit down." Christine's voice stayed level, professional. "We need to discuss some concerns." Concerns? Harold remained standing. His knees felt loose, untrustworthy. "What concerns?" Marcus cleared his throat. "Mr. Wade, your wife has observed some troubling patterns. As a medical professional myself, I have to agree with her assessment." "Assessment of what?" Christine pulled a small notebook from her purse, spiral-bound, the kind she used for grocery lists. But this wasn't groceries. She opened it, and Harold saw his own life itemized in her neat handwriting. "On October 8th, she read. "Forgot our anniversary. No flowers, no card, no acknowledgement. I told you I bought flowers. October 12th. Left the stove on. Pot boiled over. Smoke detector went off. I came home to find you confused about how it happened." Harold's face went hot. "That was once. I was distracted." October 19th. Got lost driving to Miller's Hardware. Called me from a gas station. Said the roads had changed. They repaved. Construction detour. October 23rd. Couldn't remember our grandson's name during a phone call with Michael. Harold opened his mouth, closed it. He didn't remember that call. Didn't remember struggling with Jacob's name. But the memory felt thin, like something viewed through fog. "I don't—" He gripped the counter harder. "I'm not sick. I'm a doctor. I'd know." Marcus leaned forward, elbows on the table, young guy, maybe 48. Gym-built shoulders, expensive watch. Head of the new cardiology department. Christine had mentioned him a few times. "Smart," she'd said. "Going places." "Mr. Wade, that's actually a classic symptom. Lack of insight. Patients with early cognitive decline often don't recognize their own symptoms. The brain can't assess itself objectively." The words landed like fists. Cognitive decline, early stages, lack of insight. "This is ridiculous." Harold's voice came out thin. "Christine, tell him this is ridiculous." But Christine didn't. She just looked at him with those measured eyes, and Harold felt something crack inside his chest. His wife of 40 years, looking at him like he was a problem to be managed. "Honey, we're trying to help you." She tapped the power of attorney document. "This is just a precaution. It protects you. If something happens, if you need help managing things, I can step in, handle the finances, the medical decisions. You've worked so hard your whole life. You deserve to rest, not worry about paperwork." Harold looked at the document, at Christine's hands, folded neat on top of it, wedding ring catching the light. Those hands had held his through the birth of their son, through his father's funeral, through 35 years of him delivering babies at 3 a.m. while she kept the home fires burning. "I just need time to think about it." "Of course." Christine's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Take your time." "But Harold, you need to understand. We're worried about you. Dr. Thornton has seen cases like this before." Early intervention is critical. Marcus nodded. The sooner we establish support structures, the better the outcomes. Power of attorney, updated will, maybe a consultation with a neurologist. I don't need a neurologist. Harold's hands shook. From anger or something else he couldn't tell. I need my wife to believe me. The words hung in the kitchen. The cicadas droned outside, loud in the silence. The coffee cup sat cold on the table between them, a brown ring staining the wood. Christine stood, smoothed her skirt. We'll talk more tomorrow when you've had time to process. Dr. Thornton, thank you for coming. Marcus rose, shook Harold's hand. His grip was firm, confident, the grip of a man who knew he was right. Mr. Wade, I know this is difficult, but your wife loves you. She's trying to protect you. They walked to the door together. Christine's hand brushed Marcus's arm. Just a touch, brief and easy, familiar. At the threshold, Christine turned back. Harold, I'm doing this for you. You understand that, right? Harold didn't answer. Couldn't. She left without waiting for one. The screen door slammed behind them. That old sound Harold had heard 10,000 times, but this time it sounded different. Final. Harold stood alone in his kitchen, staring at the power of attorney document on the table. Outside, an engine started. Marcus's BMW, by the sound of it, expensive and smooth. He reached for the paper, hands still shaking. The legal language blurred, his vision or tears. I'm not crazy, he said to the empty room. The house didn't answer. Harold sat down in his chair, Christine's chair now occupied by the memory of another man, and tried to remember buying those flowers. The memory stayed just out of reach. 3 days passed like walking through mud. Christine came home Thursday night with grocery bags. Harold was on the porch, coffee gone cold in his hands, watching the sun bleed out over the cornfields. Hey, honey. Her voice was soft. Different. Can you help me with these? Harold looked up. She was smiling. Not the clinical smile from Tuesday. A real one. The one he remembered from before. He stood, joints creaking, and followed her inside. She unpacked groceries, pot roast fixings, potatoes, the good carrots from the farmer's market. His favorites. Thought I'd make dinner tonight, she said. Like old times. Harold leaned against the doorframe, watching her move through their kitchen. 38 years she'd moved through this space. Every motion familiar as breathing. Chris, about Tuesday. I'm sorry. She turned, eyes wet. I was too clinical. You're my husband, not a patient. I forgot that. Something loosened in Harold's chest. Relief, flooding warm through his veins. I know I've been distant, she continued. Work's been hell. The new department head, Marcus, he's reorganizing everything and I'm pulling doubles to prove I can keep up. She crossed to him, took his hands. But that's not your fault. I took it out on you, and that wasn't fair. Her hands were warm, real. Harold squeezed them. I thought, his voice cracked. I thought you believed I was losing my mind. Oh, honey. She pulled him close. He smelled her shampoo, that lavender scent he'd known for decades. I was scared. Seeing patterns that maybe weren't there. Projecting. They stood in the kitchen, holding each other while the evening light faded. Harold felt the weight lift. He'd been wrong. She still loved him. They were okay. Let's see someone, Christine said into his shoulder. A counselor. Work through this together. As a team. Harold nodded. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That night, she made pot roast. They ate at the table, talking about Michael, about the church fundraiser, about Bill Morrison's new boat. Normal things. Good things. When they went to bed, Christine kissed his cheek. I love you, Harold. We're going to be fine. He believed her. The counselor's office smelled like vanilla candles and old books. Dr. Patricia Vance, licensed marriage and family therapist, according to the placard on her desk. 60-something, kind eyes, wedding ring worn thin from years. So tell me what brings you both in today. Christine spoke first. Harold noticed that but didn't think much of it. We've been married 40 years. Recently, I've been concerned about Harold's memory. Small things at first, forgotten dates, misplaced items, but it's escalating, and I'm overwhelmed. Dr. Vance nodded, writing, "That must be frightening for both of you." "It is," Christine said. Her voice quavered. Perfect pitch. "I'm still working full-time at the hospital, trying to be a good wife, a good doctor, and now caregiver too. I don't know if I can do it all." Harold shifted in his chair. Leather squeaked beneath him. "I don't need a caregiver." "Harold, please." Christine reached for his hand. He let her take it. "This is why we're here, to communicate better." Dr. Vance looked at him. "Harold, Christine mentioned memory concerns. How do you feel about that?" "I feel like I'm being told I'm sick when I'm not." "You forgot our anniversary," Christine said quietly. "I didn't—" Harold stopped. "The flowers." He'd been so sure, but the counter had been empty. "I remember buying them." "Do you?" Christine's eyes were gentle, sad. "Or do you remember intending to buy them?" The distinction landed like a punch. Harold opened his mouth, couldn't find words. Dr. Vance wrote something. "Memory can be tricky, especially under stress. Harold, has work been stressful? Retirement can be a difficult transition." "I retired 3 years ago." "And how has that been?" Harold thought about his days: coffee on the porch, grocery runs, fixing the screen door, organizing his father's old medical journals. Quiet, peaceful, empty. "It's been fine." Dr. Vance smiled. "Christine, you mentioned feeling overwhelmed. What would help?" Christine dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. "I just need to know we're planning ahead. If Harold's condition progresses, and I pray it doesn't, I need to be able to help him. Power of attorney, updated will, medical directives. Just safety nets." "That sounds very reasonable," Dr. Vance said. "Harold, how do you feel about putting those structures in place? Not because you need them now, but as a gift to Christine? To ease her worry?" A gift. Harold looked at his wife. She was crying now, quiet tears down her cheeks. When had he last seen her cry? Years, maybe decades. "I don't want you carrying this alone," she whispered. "Let me help you." The pen felt heavy in his hand. The power of attorney document sat on Dr. Vance's desk, Christine's lawyer having conveniently prepared it in advance. "It's just a precaution," Dr. Vance said gently. "You're still in control, Harold. This just means Christine can help if you need it." If he needed it. Harold signed. His hand moved across the paper, muscle memory from 40 years of signing prescriptions, hospital charts, permission slips for Michael's field trips. Christine exhaled, reached across and squeezed his shoulder. "Thank you, honey. This means so much." The ink was still wet when they stood to leave. In the parking lot, Christine checked her phone, twice, 3 times. "You okay?" Harold asked. "Fine, just work stuff." She slipped the phone into her purse without looking at him. "I need to stop by the hospital, cover someone's shift for a few hours. I thought we'd get dinner." "Rain check?" She kissed his cheek, quick, distracted. "There's leftover pot roast." She drove away in her own car. They'd driven separately. She'd suggested it that morning. More efficient, she'd said. Harold sat in his truck, the power of attorney document in a manila envelope on the passenger seat. His phone buzzed. Bill Morrison. "You still fishing Saturday?" Harold typed back. "Yep, 6 a.m.? See you then." He started the engine. Caught a whiff of something, cologne, not his. Masculine, expensive. Sandalwood and citrus. Must have rubbed off from a patient, he thought. Christine worked with male doctors all the time. He drove home. The house was empty. He heated up pot roast, ate it standing at the counter, watched the sun set through the kitchen window. At 9, he went to bed. The guest room door was closed, light visible underneath. Christine had moved in there 2 weeks ago. "To give you space," she'd said. "You've been restless at night." Had he been? He didn't remember waking her. Harold lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the old house settle. Down the hall, Christine's phone chimed. Once, twice, 3 times. Soft laughter filtered through the wall. Harold closed his eyes. They were going to be fine, she'd said. He wanted to believe her. Morning came too bright. Harold made coffee, checked the bank statement that had arrived yesterday. Joint savings, $39,847.23. He stared at the number. They'd had, what, 47,000? 48? Maybe he was remembering wrong. There was a transfer line, $8,000 to HC Medical Consulting LLC. Harold didn't recognize the name. He'd asked Christine about it when she got home. If she came home. Harold bought a spiral notebook at the drugstore, plain blue cover, like the ones Christine had used to document his decline. He'd document too. Call number 1, Tuesday morning, 9:47 a.m., rang 8 times. Voicemail. Christine, it's me. Can you call me back? There's something on the bank statement I don't understand. Call number 2, Tuesday, 2:15 p.m. Voicemail again. Chris, it's Harold. Still need to talk about that LLC transfer. Call when you can. Call number 3, Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. She answered. Harold, I'm with a patient. This'll take 30 seconds. I can't do this now. I'll call you back. Click. She didn't call back. Harold added a hash mark in the notebook. One line, neat and vertical. By Friday, there were 47 hash marks. The bank statement bothered him like a stone in his shoe. He drove to Regions Bank on Saturday morning, missing his fishing trip with Bill. As the teller was young, maybe 25, name tag said Ashley. I need to check on a transfer from my account. Sure thing. Account number? Harold recited it. The number he'd memorized 38 years ago when they'd opened the joint account, newlyweds with a baby on the way and a future spread out like a map. Ashley typed, frowned, typed more. Sir, I'm showing this account under Christine Wade's name only. That's my wife. It's a joint account. I'm showing her as the sole account holder as of, she squinted at the screen, October 26th. 3 days after he'd signed the power of attorney. That's wrong, Harold said. His voice came out too loud. The man at the next window glanced over. I've been on that account for 38 years. Sir, I can only tell you what the system shows. If you have questions, you'll need to speak with Mrs. Wade. I'm speaking with you. I'm a joint holder. Sir? Ashley's voice went careful, gentle. The way people talk to confused old men. You're not listed on this account. I can't discuss it with you without the primary holder's authorization. Harold drove home with his hands white on the wheel. He tried calling Christine from the truck. Voicemail. Tried again from the kitchen. Voicemail. Tried from the porch, watching the evening come on. This time she answered. Harold, you need to stop. Stop what? Calling me 40 times a day. It's harassment. 47, he said. And it's not harassment when I can't get my wife to talk to me. I'm working, Harold. I can't drop everything because you're confused about bank statements. I'm not confused. There's $8,000 missing. A pause. Long enough that Harold thought the call had dropped. That's the LLC, Christine said finally. Tax strategy. Our accountant recommended it. I explained this. You never explained it. I did. You don't remember. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Harold stood, paced the porch. The boards creaked under his boots. Christine, my name's off the account. Because of the power of attorney. It simplifies things. I'm managing our finances now, remember? You signed the paperwork. I signed so you could help if I needed it, not so you could erase me. Harold. Her voice dropped. Clinical again. You're being obsessive. This is concerning behavior. I think you need to talk to someone. I'm talking to you. A professional. This paranoia? It's not paranoia when the money's really gone. Silence. Then, I have to go. Please stop calling me. She hung up. Harold stared at his phone. Added another hash mark to the notebook. 48. By the end of October, the notebook had 133 hash marks. Christine answered 11 times total. The conversations lasted an average of 93 seconds. Harold timed them. Between calls, he investigated. The joint savings down to $31,000, another $8,000 gone, then $6,000. Small transfers, regular as clockwork, always to HC Medical Consulting LLC. The house deed. Harold requested a copy from the county recorder's office. His name had been removed, refiled with Christine as sole owner. Date, October 29th. The pharmacy. Harold stopped in to pick up his blood pressure medication. The pharmacist, Tom Chen, had known him for 20 years. Doc Wade, you picked up your other prescriptions yesterday. What other prescriptions? Tom checked his computer. Looks like quetiapine and lorazepam, filled under your name, picked up by, he squinted, Christine Wade. I didn't request those. They're on your chart. New prescriptions from Dr. Thornton at County Hospital. Marcus Thornton. Harold drove to the hospital, his hospital where he'd practiced for 35 years, delivered half the town's babies, set broken bones, held hands through last breaths. The receptionist was new, didn't recognize him. I need to see my wife, Dr. Christine Wade. Is she expecting you? I'm her husband. The receptionist picked up the phone, spoke quietly, hung up. Sir, I need you to wait here. I just want to talk to... Two security guards appeared from the hallway. The younger one Harold didn't know. The older one, Frank Gibson, had been working security for 15 years. Doc Wade. Frank's face was pained. You need to leave. Frank, what's going on? There's been a restraining order filed. You can't be on hospital property. The words didn't make sense. Restraining order? Against him? That's impossible. Frank pulled a folded paper from his pocket. Official county seal. Harold's name typed at the top. I'm sorry, Doc, but you gotta go. Harold stood in the lobby, his lobby, where he'd walked 10,000 times in scrubs and white coat, where people had called him Doc Wade with respect in their voices. Can I at least see the order? Frank handed it over. Harold's hand shook reading it. Petitioner Christine Wade alleges pattern of erratic harassment via excessive phone calls, 200 plus in 6 weeks. Delusional accusations regarding finances. Potential for escalation to physical aggression due to documented cognitive decline. 200 calls. He'd made 200 calls. Harold looked up at Frank. I'm not dangerous. I know, Doc, but I got my orders. The younger guard touched Harold's elbow. Sir, let's go. Harold walked out. Through the automatic doors, across the parking lot to his truck. It was 4 in the afternoon. Shift change. Doctors and nurses streaming in and out. He sat in the truck, couldn't make himself start the engine. The hospital doors opened. Christine walked out, laughing at something. Dr. Marcus Thornton beside her, hand resting on her lower back. Easy. Familiar. They walked to her car. Marcus said something that made her laugh again. Then he leaned in, just a moment, and kissed her temple. Christine smiled, touched his face. They separated. She got in her car, drove away. Marcus walked to his BMW, parked 3 spaces from Harold's truck. Harold sat frozen, watching Marcus pull out, watching the space where Christine's car had been, watching the truth settle over him like snow. She wasn't sick. She wasn't confused. She was leaving. And she'd built the legal framework to make him look crazy for noticing. Harold drove home on autopilot. The restraining order sat on the passenger seat beside his notebook. 200 calls, 200 times he'd tried to reach his wife. 200 times she'd made him feel like he was the problem. At the kitchen table, he spread out the evidence, bank statements, the deed, the prescription bottles he'd never requested, the restraining order, his notebook full of hash marks. He wasn't crazy, but no one would believe him. His phone rang. No number. Harold ignored it. It rang again. 3rd time, he answered. What? Doc Wade? A woman's voice, older. This is Doris Ham, from next door. Harold tried to place her. The neighbor. Lived there 30 years, but they'd never been close. Waved across the fence. That was all. Mrs. Ham. I know you don't know me well. She paused. But I've been watching. I see what's happening. Harold's throat went tight. I don't know what you mean. Yes, you do. Her voice was firm, kind. I've been taking pictures, Doc. of the cars in your driveway when you're gone, of your mail being taken. I've been listening at the fence, too. I heard your wife coaching that doctor fellow on how to document your deterioration. Harold couldn't breathe. My daughter went through something like this, Doris continued. Her ex-husband gaslit her, tried to have her committed. I couldn't save her then. But maybe I can help you now. Why would you help me? Because someone should have helped my girl. Her voice cracked. Can I come over? I've got a folder you need to see. Harold looked around his empty kitchen, his empty house. At the restraining order that said he was dangerous, the bank statements that said he was confused, the prescription bottles that said he was sick. Yeah, he said. Come over. He hung up, added one more hash mark to his notebook. Call no 201. But this one was different. This one was someone calling him. Tuesday morning came the way it always did. Harold shaved, put on a clean flannel shirt, filled his thermos with black coffee. 20 years, he'd been going to the Elks Lodge breakfast. 20 years of the same booth, same bacon and eggs, same men telling the same stories. He needed normal. Needed to remember who he was before Christine started taking him apart piece by piece. The parking lot was half full. Bill Morrison's truck, Eddie Santos's sedan, Reverend Michaels's old Buick, Harold's people, his town. He pushed through the door. The bell chimed overhead. Conversations didn't stop, but the volume dropped, like someone had turned down a dial. Harold walked toward the corner booth, his booth, where Bill always sat waiting with the coffee pot and the newspaper spread out like a tablecloth. Bill looked up. Their eyes met. Bill grabbed his coffee cup, stood, moved to a table on the opposite side of the room. Harold stopped walking. The thermos suddenly weighed 100 pounds in his hand. Eddie Santos glanced over, then away. Fast. Nobody said hello. Harold stood there, aware of every eye not quite looking at him, every conversation resuming just a little too loud. He got his breakfast from the counter. Betty, who'd been serving him eggs for 15 years, kept her eyes down, slid the plate across without a word. Harold carried his tray to the corner booth, his booth. Sat down alone. The bacon tasted like cardboard. He looked at his reflection in the window. Old man, eating breakfast alone, everyone giving him a wide berth. When had he become that guy? He forced down 3 bites. Couldn't stomach a fourth. The bathroom. He'd splash water on his face, pull himself together. 2 men stood at the urinals. Harold recognized their voices before he saw them. Jim Paulson and Rick Dwyer. He stepped into a stall, closed the door. That's the one Christine was talking about, Jim said. Wade, Doc Wade. Yeah. She called a meeting at the hospital last week. Bunch of us from church and the lodge. Wanted to warn us. Harold's hand froze on the stall lock. Warn us about what? Says he's getting delusional. Making accusations about her, paranoid stuff. She's real worried he might get aggressive. Doc Wade, aggressive? That's what dementia does, apparently. Changes personality. Christine said he's been harassing her, calling her 200 times, showing up at her work. They had to file a restraining order. Jesus, that's awful. She's trying to get him help, but he won't accept it. Keeps insisting he's fine. Everyone else is lying. Classic symptom, she said. Lack of insight. Lack of insight. The same words Marcus had used. Poor Christine, Rick said. Water running, paper towels. Taking care of him must be hell, and she's still working full-time. She's a saint. I don't know how she does it. Their voices faded. Door closing. Harold sat on the toilet lid, fully clothed, trying to breathe. She'd poisoned them, all of them. Told his friends, his community, that he was crazy, dangerous, delusional. And they'd believed her. Because she was Dr. Wade. Because she had credentials and a white coat and medical language that made her sound authoritative. What did Harold have? A spiral notebook full of hash marks and a story that sounded exactly like what a paranoid old man would invent. He left the bathroom, walked past his half-eaten breakfast, past Bill Morrison, who looked everywhere but at him, past Betty behind the counter. Nobody said goodbye. Harold sat in his truck for an hour, parked outside the closed diner, staring at nothing. The town moved around him. Mrs. Chen walking her dog, the hardware store opening, life continuing like he wasn't disappearing. His phone rang. Reverend Michaels. Harold almost didn't answer. But 25 years of Sunday services, of potlucks and prayer groups and hospital visits when parishioners were sick, that counted for something. Harold, it's Jeff Michaels. Reverend. A pause. Careful. I wanted to check on you, see how you're doing. I'm fine. That's good? That's good. Another pause. Christine mentioned you've been under some stress. Having a hard time with the retirement transition. There it was, Christine mentioned. Did she mention she's stealing from me? Silence on the line, long and heavy. Harold, I think maybe you need to talk to someone, a professional. I can recommend some Christian counselors who specialize in, he fumbled the words, in aging transitions, helping folks adjust when things get confusing. Thanks, Reverend. I'll think about it. Please do. We're praying for you. The whole congregation, praying for crazy Harold. Poor, confused Harold who harasses his saint of a wife. Harold hung up. Even God's representative thought he was losing it. He drove the long way home, past the diner where he and Christine used to get pie on Friday nights, past the hardware store where he'd bought the lumber to build Michael's treehouse, past the church where they'd been married 40 years ago. Him nervous in a borrowed suit, her beautiful in her mother's dress. Past his whole life, all of it turning foreign. Home felt like a crime scene. He sat on the porch, watching the light fade. Doris Ham was watering her petunias at the fence line. Had she always done that? He'd never noticed. She looked over, raised a hand. Harold raised his back. She set down her watering can, crossed the lawn slowly, deliberately, carried a manila folder under her arm. Doc Wade, can I sit? Harold nodded to the empty chair. Christine's chair. Doris settled in with a small grunt. 72, he'd guess. Sturdy build, practical clothes, hands that looked like they'd done work. I don't know you very well, Harold said. No, we've been neighbors 30 years and barely said 2 words. She set the folder on her lap. That's my fault. I keep to myself mostly. Nothing wrong with that. There is when you see something wrong and don't speak up. She opened the folder. I've been watching, Doc. And I've been documenting. She spread photographs on the small table between them. Marcus Thornton's BMW in Harold's driveway. Timestamp, 2:47 p.m., October 18th. Harold's truck visible in the background. Gone. Marcus loading boxes from Harold's garage into his trunk. Timestamp, October 23rd, 11:15 a.m. Christine's car, gone from the driveway overnight. 3 separate occasions. 3 separate timestamps. Harold's mailbox, Christine pulling out envelopes. Close-ups showed they were bank statements. Timestamp, November 2nd. How long have you been taking these? 5 weeks, since I noticed the pattern. Doris pulled out more papers. Timeline here shows every time your truck was broken down on days you had bank appointments. Coincidence doesn't repeat that many times. Harold stared at the evidence. Proof, tangible, time-stamped, undeniable proof. I recorded some conversations too. Doris looked apologetic. At the fence. I know it's an invasion, but my property, public conversation, legally permissible. She pulled out a small recorder, pressed play. Christine's voice, tinny but clear. Just document every confused moment. Write it down. Dates, times. Build the case. Marcus. What if he's not actually declining? Christine. He is. I'm a doctor. I can see the signs. Marcus. But Christine. Do you want this to work or not? We need a paper trail. Doris clicked it off. Harold's hands shook. He set down his coffee before he dropped it. Why? His voice cracked. Why would you help me? Doris was quiet for a moment, watching the last light bleed from the sky. My daughter, Sarah. She went through this. Ex-husband gaslit her for years, told her she was crazy, unreliable, paranoid. He tried to have her committed, almost succeeded. Her voice went flat. She took her own life 5 years ago, hung herself in her apartment. Left a note that said she couldn't trust her own mind anymore. Harold closed his eyes. I couldn't save her, Doris said. Didn't see it happening until too late. But I see it happening to you, and maybe I can save you. I don't know if I can be saved. Yes, you can. She tapped the folder. Because you're not crazy, Doc. You're being robbed in broad daylight by someone who knows how to make you look crazy. Harold opened his eyes, looked at this woman he'd waved to for 30 years but never really seen. What do I do? First, you stop trying to fight this alone. Doris pulled out her phone. I tracked down your son, Michael, in Seattle. Harold's chest tightened. He won't believe me. Christine got to him first. I sent him these photos yesterday, called him this morning. She met his eyes. He's on a plane, gets in tomorrow morning. He's bringing a lawyer. Hope flickered. Dangerous, fragile hope. He believed you? Not at first. But I sent him corporate documents too. LLC formation papers with his notary seal on them. Papers he says he's never seen before. Harold remembered the bank transfers. HC Medical Consulting LLC. She forged my signature, used his notary license without telling him. That's what he thinks too, and now he's mad. Doris smiled, small and fierce. Your boy's coming home, Doc, and he's coming to fight. They sat in the gathering dark, moths beginning to circle the porch light. Somewhere down the road, a dog barked. Normal sounds. The world continuing. But something had shifted. Harold wasn't alone anymore. Thank you, he said. Doris patted his hand. You can thank me when it's over. Right now, just get some sleep. You're going to need your strength. She stood, left the manila folder with him, walked back across the lawn to her house. Harold sat on his porch, looking at the evidence. Photographic proof that he wasn't crazy. Timeline that showed he wasn't paranoid. Truth, finally, in something more solid than his own failing memory. His phone buzzed. Text from Michael. Dad, I'm sorry. I should have called sooner. I should have believed you. I'm on the 6 a.m. flight. We're going to fix this. Harold read it 3 times. Typed back slowly. I love you, son. The response came fast. Love you too, Dad. See you tomorrow. Harold set down his phone. Looked at the folder again. At Doris's house. Lights on in the kitchen. At the empty chair beside him where Christine used to sit. Maybe, he thought, some families are the ones you find in the wreckage. Maybe that's enough. Dawn came cold and clear. Harold was already on the porch, coffee steaming in the November air, when the rental car pulled into the driveway. Michael stepped out first. 42 now, hair starting to gray at the temples. Looked like Harold's father. That Wade jawline, those careful eyes that assessed before they committed. A woman emerged from the passenger side. Professional suit, leather briefcase. The lawyer, Harold guessed. Michael stopped at the bottom of the porch steps. Father and son looked at each other across 15 years of silence, 48 hours of frantic phone calls, and a lifetime of complicated love. Dad? Son. They stood there, neither moving, until Michael climbed the steps and pulled Harold into a hug. Awkward at first, then tight. Harold felt his boy's shoulders shake. I'm sorry, Michael whispered. God, Dad, I'm so sorry. You're here now. Harold's voice was rough. That's what matters. Michael pulled back, wiped his eyes fast. This is Janet Reeves. She specializes in elder abuse cases. Janet extended her hand. Firm grip. Mr. Wade, I've reviewed the evidence Mrs. Ham sent. What's been done to you is criminal. Come inside, Harold said. Coffee's fresh. They spread the evidence across the living room coffee table. Doris arrived 10 minutes later, let herself in like she'd been doing it for years instead of one day. She brought a cardboard box tied with string. More documentation, she said. Call logs from my phone records showing when Christine's car was here overnight. Utility bills showing increased water usage on days she claimed to be working doubles. Janet made notes on a legal pad. Her pen moved fast, efficient. Michael stared at the photographs. His mother, laughing with another man. His mother, loading boxes from his father's garage. I had lunch with her 6 times last year. His voice was flat. She said you were getting difficult. Said you'd been forgetting things, getting confused. Asked me to help with some estate planning documents. He went to the rental car, came back with a file box. Set it on the table with a thud. I brought these to show Janet. Proof I was trying to help organize your affairs. He opened the box. Except now I'm not sure what I was actually helping with. Inside, corporate formation documents, HC Medical Consulting LLC. Harold's signature on the bottom, Michael's notary seal beside it. Harold picked up the paper, studied his own name, written in handwriting that wasn't quite right. The H too rounded, the W too cramped. I never saw this before right now. Michael pulled out Harold's driver's license from his wallet, set it beside the LLC document. The signatures didn't match. She forged it, Michael said, and she used my notary seal to legitimize it. His hands shook. I'm an accomplice to fraud against my own father. You didn't know, Harold said. I should have known. Michael's voice broke. I should have called you directly, visited, not just believed her story because it was easier than admitting I'd abandoned you. The room went quiet. Just the tick of the old mantel clock Harold's father had built. Why did you stay away? Harold asked. The question he'd held for 15 years. Michael sat down heavy. That argument about me not pursuing surgery. You said family practice was settling, that I was wasting potential. Harold's chest tightened. He remembered that fight. Michael accepted at University of Washington, wanting to do general practice in Seattle. Harold pushing him toward specialization, toward prestige. I said it wrong, Harold said. I just wanted you to have options. I heard it as you not respecting your own work, not respecting me. Michael looked at his hands. So I moved to Seattle to prove something, and I've been proving it for 15 years while my father sat here alone. Your mother told you I didn't want to hear from you. Michael's head snapped up. What? 2 years ago, I called you on your birthday, left a message. You never called back. When I asked Christine about it, she said she'd talked to you, that you'd said you needed space. That I should respect that. Dad, I never got that message. Michael pulled out his phone, scrolled. She's been intercepting. Look, last year I sent you an email about Emma starting 2nd grade. Asked if you wanted to video chat with her. He showed Harold the screen. Email dated June 14th, sent to Harold's address. Harold had never seen it. She had access to your email? Janet asked. Power of attorney, Harold said bitterly. She changed all my passwords, said it was to help manage things. Michael stood, paced to the window. She used my guilt, my absence. She said you were declining and I felt responsible because I wasn't here to see it myself. So when she asked me to notarize documents, to witness signatures, I did it. Thought I was being a good son finally. He turned back. What have I done? Doris spoke up, voice gentle but firm. You were manipulated, same as your father. She's good at finding vulnerabilities and exploiting them. She's my mother. She's a criminal, Janet said, and we're going to prove it. She tapped her legal pad. Here's what we have. Photographic evidence of the affair. Timeline of financial exploitation. Corporate documents with forged signatures. Medical prescriptions issued in Harold's name without his knowledge or consent. She looked at Michael. Your testimony about being deceived into providing notary services, that's fraud, identity theft, and elder abuse. What about the restraining order? Harold asked. She's made me look dangerous. We'll address that at the hearing. Janet wrote something. Hospital Ethics Board meets Friday. We'll request an emergency session to address the restraining order and Christine's conduct. Once we present this evidence, the board won't have a choice. They'll believe us? Harold heard the doubt in his own voice. The months of being disbelieved had carved that doubt deep. They'll believe the evidence, Janet said, and they'll believe Rita Chen. Who's Rita Chen? Bank employee. Mrs. Ham tracked her down yesterday. Rita's been leaving breadcrumbs for you, Harold. Those duplicate statements, she sent them on purpose. She knew something was wrong but couldn't intervene directly without losing her job. Harold remembered the extra statements, the way they always included the incriminating pages. She'll testify? She's ready to, and so is her manager. Turns out the bank's been building its own case. Janet smiled, sharp. Your wife isn't as clever as she thinks. They worked until 2 in the morning. Pizza boxes and coffee cups littered the kitchen table. Documents spread everywhere, organized into piles. Financial, medical, corporate, photographic. Michael had called his wife Sarah, explained he'd be gone longer than planned. Harold overheard part of the conversation. It's bad, honey. Worse than I thought. No, he's completely lucid, sharp as ever. She's been lying to us for over a year. I don't know, but I'm not leaving until we fix it. Around midnight, Harold found Michael on the porch. His son stood at the railing, staring at the dark cornfields. Can't sleep? Harold asked. Can't stop thinking. Michael didn't turn around. All those lunches. She was so convincing, so concerned. And I believed every word. She convinced me too, and I lived with her for 40 years. How do you do that? How do you lie to someone for that long? Harold thought about Christine's smile over pot roast, her kiss on his cheek, her soft, I love you, that he'd believed because he wanted to. I think she believed her own story, Harold said. Convinced herself she was doing the right thing, that I was really declining, that she deserved the money, that Marcus was her fresh start. He paused. People can justify anything if they're scared enough. Scared of what? Getting old, being invisible, ending up like me, retired, sitting on a porch, watching the world without her. Harold's voice was quiet. She worked twice as hard for half the recognition her whole career. I think she just got tired. Michael turned. That doesn't excuse what she did. No, but it explains it. Harold looked at his son. I loved her, Michael. Part of me still does. That's the hell of it. You don't stop loving someone just because they destroy you. They stood in the cold. Michael's breath fogged in the air. I'm going to make this right, Michael said. Whatever it takes. You already did. You came home. Michael's eyes watered. I should have come home 15 years ago. You're here now. Harold put a hand on his son's shoulder. Some things can't be fixed, son, but some things can be built new. Maybe that's enough. Inside, Janet was still working. Doris had gone home an hour ago but promised to return at dawn. Harold went to bed in his own room. For the first time in months, he didn't lie awake wondering if he was losing his mind. He had proof now. He had witnesses. He had his son. Tomorrow, they'd fight back. Morning came fast. They gathered at the kitchen table. Harold, Michael, Janet, Doris, war council over coffee and grocery store donuts. Christine doesn't know we're coming, Janet said. She thinks Harold's isolated, discredited. The restraining order hearing is scheduled for Friday at the hospital. She'll be confident. Good, Michael said. Let her be confident. We need one more piece, Janet said. Harold, can you get your medical records from the hospital? The ones Christine supposedly documented your decline in? I can try. Don't try. Demand them. You have a legal right, and I want to see what she wrote. Doris pulled out her phone. I can help with that. My nephew works in medical records. Owes me a favor. By noon, they had Harold's file. Janet spread it open. Entries dating back 8 months. Patient reports frequent memory lapses. Difficulty with activities of daily living requires monitoring. Exhibits confusion, disorientation to time and place. Recommend cognitive assessment. All entered by Dr. Christine Wade. All backdated. All fabricated. There's your proof, Janet said. She falsified medical records to build a case for incompetency. Michael stared at his mother's handwriting. She's going to lose her license. She's going to lose more than that, Janet said. Medical fraud, elder abuse, identity theft. She's looking at 5 to 7 years. Harold felt nothing. No satisfaction. No vindication. Just a hollow space where 40 years of marriage used to be. Let's get this done, he said. Friday was 2 days away. 2 days to prepare for the fight of his life. The hospital conference room smelled like industrial cleaner and burnt coffee. Long table, rolling chairs, fluorescent lights humming overhead. 5 board members sat along one side, recording secretary at the end with her laptop open. Harold entered with Michael on his left, Janet on his right, Doris behind them carrying her manila folder like a shield. Board chair, Dr. Gerald Paulson looked up from his papers, 60-something wire-rimmed glasses, the weary expression of a man who'd seen too many personnel disputes. We're here to address the restraining order petition filed by Dr. Christine Wade against Harold Wade with allegations of harassment and concerning behavior. He glanced at Harold. Mr. Wade, thank you for appearing voluntarily. Harold nodded. His throat was too dry to speak. The door opened. Christine walked in wearing her white coat, armor, authority. Dr. Marcus Thornton beside her in his own white coat, and a lawyer Harold didn't recognize. Young guy, expensive suit. Christine's eyes swept the room. Landed on Harold, no surprise there. Moved to Michael. She stopped walking, just for a second. Her face went carefully blank, but Harold saw the flicker. Shock. Fear. Michael stared at his mother with an expression Harold had never seen before. Cold. Unforgiving. Christine recovered, smoothed her expression, took her seat across the table. Marcus sat beside her. He looked nervous, kept adjusting his tie. Dr. Wade, Dr. Paulson said, you filed for a restraining order against your husband. Can you explain the circumstances? Christine folded her hands on the table. Wedding ring still on her finger. Harold noticed. Stage dressing. This is extremely painful for me. Her voice was steady, professional. My husband has been experiencing cognitive decline for approximately 8 months. Memory loss, confusion, personality changes. As a physician, I recognized the symptoms and tried to get him help. What kind of help? Neurological evaluation, medication, counseling. But Harold refuses to accept his condition. He's become paranoid, making accusations about our finances, about my colleagues. She glanced at Marcus. Dr. Thornton has been helping me navigate this difficult situation as both a colleague and friend. Friend. The word landed soft as a lie. The harassment escalated, Christine continued. Over 200 phone calls in 6 weeks. Showing up at my workplace despite being asked to stay away. I feared for my safety. The restraining order was a last resort. Dr. Paulson made notes. Mr. Wade, do you want to respond? Harold started to speak, but Janet touched his arm, stood instead. Dr. Paulson, if I may, I'm Janet Reeves, Mr. Wade's attorney. Before we proceed with the restraining order matter, we have evidence that suggests this hearing needs to expand in scope. Christine's lawyer, his nameplate read Thomas Brennan, leaned forward. Objection. This hearing is specifically about Mr. Wade's harassment of my client. Mr. Wade is here voluntarily to address those allegations, Janet interrupted. But we have substantial evidence of financial exploitation, medical record falsification, and abuse of medical authority by Dr. Christine Wade. Evidence this board is ethically obligated to investigate. The board members exchanged glances. What evidence? Dr. Paulson asked. Photographic documentation, bank records, testimony from multiple witnesses, and proof of corporate fraud using forged signatures. Christine's face stayed composed, but her hands tightened on the table. These are baseless accusations, Brennan said. A desperate attempt by an impaired individual to— I'm not impaired. Harold's voice came out stronger than he felt. I'm being robbed by my wife, and she's using her medical credentials to make me look crazy. Silence in the room. Dr. Paulson removed his glasses, cleaned them slowly. Miss Reeves, this is highly irregular. What's irregular is a physician falsifying medical records to exploit her own husband, Janet said. But if you'd prefer to proceed only with the restraining order hearing, we can do that. However, the evidence we have will eventually reach the state medical board, the prosecutor's office, and every media outlet in the county. She paused. Your choice. Dr. Paulson looked at the other board members. Whispered conversation. Finally, we'll hear the evidence, but this needs to be orderly. Miss Reeves, present your case. Janet opened her briefcase. I'd like to call Doris Ham to testify first. Doris stood at the end of the table. Introduced herself. Neighbor for 30 years. Retired postal worker. Voice steady as stone. She opened her folder. Photographs projected onto the screen behind her via the room's ancient projector. Marcus Thornton's BMW in Harold's driveway. Timestamp, 2:47 p.m., October 18th. The board leaned forward. Marcus loading boxes from Harold's garage. Timestamp, October 23rd. Christine's car gone overnight. 3 separate dates. 3 separate timestamps. Mail being intercepted. Bank statements visible in Christine's hands. I started documenting 5 weeks ago, Doris said, when I noticed patterns that didn't sit right. She pulled out a timeline, printed, organized, thorough. Every time Mr. Wade had a bank appointment, his truck mysteriously wouldn't start. Every time he tried to access financial documents, they'd been moved or removed. I observed Dr. Thornton entering the Wade residence on 14 separate occasions while Mr. Wade was away. Mrs. Ham, Brennan stood. Isn't this invasion of privacy? All photographs taken from my property, public view, no expectation of privacy. Doris didn't flinch. I know the law. I checked. Your motivations for this surveillance? Doris's expression hardened. My daughter was gaslit by her ex-husband. He tried to have her committed to steal her assets. He almost succeeded. She killed herself 5 years ago because she couldn't trust her own mind anymore. Her voice cracked. I won't let that happen to another person, not when I can stop it. The room was dead silent. Doris pulled out her small recorder. I also have audio recordings of conversations at the property line. Legally permissible under Indiana law. She pressed play. Christine's voice filled the room. Just document every confused moment. Write it down. Dates, times. Build the case. Marcus. What if he's not actually declining? Christine. He is. I'm a doctor. I can see the signs. Marcus. But Christine. Do you want this to work or not? We need a paper trail. Doris stopped the recording. Every board member stared at Christine. She sat frozen. Marcus had gone pale, sweat visible on his forehead. That recording is inadmissible. Brennan started. It's perfectly admissible in a civil hearing, Janet said, and it establishes premeditation. Dr. Paulson looked at Christine. Dr. Wade, do you want to respond? Christine's composure cracked at the edges. That conversation is taken out of context. What context makes build the case sound innocent? Janet asked. I was documenting genuine symptoms. We'll get to that. Janet pulled out more papers. Next witness, Rita Chen from Regions Bank. Rita Chen was small, 40-something, hands trembling slightly as she stood. Harold had seen her at the bank for years. Always professional, always careful. I've processed Mr. Wade's accounts for 12 years, Rita said. And in October, Mrs. Wade arrived with a power of attorney and began making large withdrawals. Over 6 weeks, she removed $84,000 from joint accounts, transferred them to an LLC, and removed Mr. Wade's name from all accounts. She showed bank statements. The board examined them. I provided duplicate statements to Mr. Wade, Rita continued, because I knew something was wrong. You violated bank protocol, Brennan said. I followed my conscience. Mrs. Chen was not acting alone. A new voice. Harold turned. Rita's manager, Susan Martinez, stood in the doorway. 50-something, steel gray hair, expression that could cut glass. I'm Susan Martinez, regional manager for Regions Bank. Ms. Chen came to me 5 weeks ago with concerns about the Wade accounts. We coordinated with our legal and compliance teams. She walked to the table, set down a folder. The duplicate statements were authorized by our compliance department. Ms. Chen's termination threat was cover, gave her plausible deniability if Dr. Wade's attorneys investigated. Janet looked surprised. Harold realized this was news to her too. You've been running an investigation? Dr. Paulson asked. Our bank has a zero-tolerance policy for elder financial abuse. We couldn't act without the victim's testimony. Mr. Wade was too isolated and discredited to come forward. So we documented everything and waited. Susan's gaze landed on Christine. We have 18 separate transactions that constitute financial exploitation. Our legal team has already referred this to the county prosecutor. Christine's face drained of color. Marcus whispered something urgent to her. She shook her head sharply. This is a coordinated attack. Brennan tried. This is a coordinated response to systematic theft, Susan said. There's a difference. Dr. Paulson rubbed his temples. Ms. Reeves, do you have more witnesses? Two more. Michael Wade, and evidence regarding corporate fraud. Michael stood, pulled the file box closer. Christine looked at her son, really looked at him. Michael, she said, voice softer now, almost pleading. You don't understand. I understand you used me. Michael's voice was cold. I understand you manipulated my guilt to turn me into an accomplice. He opened the box, removed the LLC formation documents. HC Medical Consulting, LLC, formed last year. My father listed as a member. I'm listed as registered agent and notary. He held up the signature page. This is supposed to be my father's signature. It's not. He placed Harold's driver's license beside it. The signature's clearly different. Mom told me these were estate planning documents, asked me to notarize them during one of our lunches. I thought I was helping organize Dad's end-of-life affairs. His voice shook with anger. Instead, I was legitimizing corporate fraud. She forged Dad's signature and used my notary seal to make it look official. The board members passed the documents between them. She isolated me from him for years, Michael continued. Intercepted emails, blocked phone calls, told me he didn't want to hear from me. Also, I'd be a useful tool when she needed one. He looked at Christine. You didn't just betray Dad. You stole 15 years of my relationship with my father. You used my love against me. Christine's eyes filled with tears. Michael, I was trying to protect. Don't! Michael's voice cut like a blade. Don't you dare say you were protecting anyone. He sat down hard. Harold reached over, squeezed his son's shoulder. Dr. Paulson looked at Christine. Dr. Wade, this is serious, very serious. Do you have any response? Christine opened her mouth, closed it, looked at her lawyer. Brennan leaned close, whispered in her ear. Marcus stood suddenly, chair scraping loud. I need to speak. Christine grabbed his arm. Marcus, don't! He pulled away. I can't do this. Everyone stared. Dr. Thornton? Dr. Paulson said carefully. Do you have something to add? Marcus looked at Christine, then at Harold. I'm sorry, he said. God, I'm so sorry, but I can't go down for this. Christine's face went white. Marcus, sit down. No. He turned to the board. I need to tell the truth. Marcus Thornton stood at the end of the table, tie loosened, hands shaking. He looked like a man watching his whole life collapse in real time. Doctor, Christine Wade and I have been having an affair for 14 months. The room reacted. One board member actually gasped. The recording secretary's fingers froze on her keyboard. Christine stood. Marcus, you don't have to. Yes, I do. He wouldn't look at her. I have to tell the truth before I lose what's left of my soul. Dr. Paulson gestured. Please continue, Dr. Thornton. Marcus swallowed hard. Christine approached me last year, said her husband was showing signs of decline. As a colleague, I believed her assessment. She's senior, respected. I had no reason to question her medical judgment. He paused, wiped sweat from his forehead. But 3 months ago, the story changed. She told me the plan. Get Harold declared incompetent, liquidate their assets, move to Arizona together. She showed me properties, condos in Scottsdale. She had it all mapped out. That's a lie, Christine started. I have the emails. Marcus pulled out his phone, hands shaking so hard he almost dropped it. Real estate listings she sent me, budget spreadsheets, timeline for when Harold would be placed in care. He looked at Harold. I participated in the diagnosis intervention at your kitchen table. I backed her claims about your cognitive decline. I helped isolate you from support systems. His voice broke. But I knew. God help me, I knew you weren't sick. Your cognition was fine. And you were sharp, articulate, completely oriented. I needed to believe her narrative. Why? Dr. Paulson asked. Marcus laughed. Bitter, hollow sound. Because I'm drowning. 2 divorces, $70,000 in debt, child support, alimony, medical school loans I'll never pay off. I'm 48 years old and I've failed at everything except my career. He sat down heavily. Christine promised me a fresh start, research funding, support for department chair position, financial security, and I convinced myself I was helping everyone. Harold would be cared for. Christine would be free. I'd have a life that didn't feel like quicksand. Silence. She falsified his medical records, Marcus said quietly. I didn't do that part. But I knew about it. I watched her do it. You watched? Board member Dr. Sarah Kim leaned forward. You witnessed Dr. Wade falsifying records and didn't report it? I was in too deep by then. If I reported her, I'd have to admit my own involvement. So you let it continue, Dr. Kim said, disgust clear in her voice. Yes. Marcus looked at Harold. I'm sorry. What I did is unforgivable. But she's not the victim here. I'm not the victim here. You are. Christine remained standing, frozen. Her lawyer pulled at her sleeve. She ignored him. Dr. Thornton, Janet said, do you have any documentation of this plan besides the emails? Text messages, thousands of them, about the timeline, the asset transfers, how to handle Michael if he became suspicious. He set his phone on the table. Take it, it's all there. Dr. Paulson looked at the other board members, whispered conference. We need to examine Mr. Wade's medical records, Dr. Paulson said, the ones Dr. Christine Wade supposedly documented. Janet pulled out the file. We obtained these through legal channels yesterday. She spread the pages. 8 months of entries. All in Christine's handwriting. October 8th. Patient reports frequent memory lapses. Forgot anniversary. October 12th. Left stove unattended, pot boiled over. Showed confusion when questioned. October 19th. Became disoriented driving. Required assistance finding home. October 23rd. Could not recall grandson's name during family phone call. November 2nd. Increasing paranoia. Accusing spouse of financial impropriety. November 15th. Exhibits poor judgment. Multiple harassing phone calls despite requests to stop. Janet looked up. Problem. Harold Wade is not a patient at County Hospital. He retired 3 years ago and uses a different provider for his medical care. She pulled out another document. This is from Dr. Raymond Shaw, Harold's actual physician. Clean bill of health. No cognitive concerns, no memory issues. Last physical, October 20th. Dr. Shaw's notes indicate Harold discussed retirement hobbies, remembered detailed medical histories from his own practice, and showed no signs of impairment. Dr. Paulson took both files, compared them. Dr. Wade, he said slowly, did you create a false patient file for your husband? Christine sat down. Her hands lay flat on the table, motionless. These notes document genuine concerns. He wasn't your patient, Dr. Kim interrupted. You backdated entries to create a paper trail that didn't exist. That's falsification of medical records. That's a felony. I was trying to help. Help yourself, Michael said, voice shaking. You were helping yourself to his money, his dignity, his life. He stood again, held up his tablet. I have more evidence. Emails Mom sent me, CC'd me on them claiming they were about coordinating Dad's care. She forgot to remove me from the chain. He began reading. His voice cracked on every word. Harold is more stubborn than expected. Need to accelerate timeline. The POA is secured. Can start liquidating non-essential assets. Michael is useful. His notary seal gives us legitimate corporate structure. Once Harold is placed in facility, Arizona property closes in 30 days. Michael's voice broke completely. Getting rid of the dead weight. Finally starting fresh. He looked at his mother, tears streaming down his face. You called him dead weight, my father. The man who raised me, who worked himself to exhaustion providing for us, who loved you for 40 years. He wiped his eyes roughly. I thought you were trying to help him. I thought you loved him. I thought I was being a good son by helping you protect him. Christine's facade shattered. She stood, voice rising. You have no idea what it's like. The room went still. 40 years in his shadow. Doc Wade's wife. That's all I was. Then I got my MD, worked twice as hard as any man in that hospital, and still it was, "Oh, you're Harold's wife." Half the recognition, twice the hours. Her voice cracked. I'm 64 years old. I'm tired. I've earned retirement. I've earned a life that's mine. But Harold got to retire at 65, just walked away, sat on his porch, drank his coffee like he'd won some prize. While I'm still working doubles, still fighting for respect, still proving myself. She looked at Marcus. Marcus made me feel alive. Young. Like I mattered for who I am, not who I'm married to. She turned to Harold. I just wanted out. A clean exit. Enough money to start over. Was that so wrong? The silence stretched. Harold spoke for the first time in an hour. You could have asked for a divorce, Christine. His voice was quiet, steady. Christine looked at him. Tears on her face now. Anger and shame and something that might have been regret. You would have fought me. Made it ugly. Contested everything. Maybe. Harold's eyes held hers. But I wouldn't have stolen your sanity. The words landed like stones in deep water. Christine sat down slowly, covered her face with her hands. Dr. Paulson cleared his throat. I think we've heard enough. This board recommends immediate suspension of Dr. Christine Wade's medical license pending criminal investigation. Same recommendation for Dr. Marcus Thornton. He looked at the secretary. Note that we're referring this matter to the county prosecutor for charges of elder abuse, financial exploitation, identity theft, and medical record falsification. To Christine and Marcus, you're both suspended from hospital privileges effective immediately. Security will escort you from the building. Christine's lawyer started to object, stopped when he saw her face. She wasn't fighting anymore. Security appeared at the door. Two guards Harold didn't recognize. Christine gathered her papers with shaking hands. Wouldn't look at anyone. At the door, Marcus paused, looked back at Harold. I'm sorry, he said again. For whatever that's worth. Harold nodded. Once. Marcus left. Christine stood at the threshold, turned. Her eyes found Harold's across the room. No words, just a look that held 40 years. Good years and bad, love and betrayal, everything they'd been and everything they'd destroyed. Harold didn't look away, didn't speak. Finally, Christine walked out. The door closed behind her. The room emptied slowly. Board members filing out, murmuring. Secretary packing up her laptop. Janet gathering documents. Harold sat at the table. Couldn't move, couldn't process. 40 years. Over in 90 minutes. Michael sat beside him. Put a hand on his shoulder. Dad? Harold stared at the empty chair where Christine had sat, where she'd looked elegant and professional and like a stranger wearing his wife's face. We won, he said, voice flat. Yeah. Doesn't feel like winning. I know. Dr. Paulson approached. Mr. Wade, I'm deeply sorry this happened. The hospital failed you. We should have caught the falsified records, should have questioned the restraining order, should have looked deeper. Harold nodded. Couldn't find words. The restraining order is void, effective immediately. Your reputation is restored, and we'll be implementing new protocols to prevent this kind of abuse. Thank you. Paulson left. Just Harold and Michael remained, and Doris, waiting by the door. Let's go home, Dad. Harold stood, legs unsteady. Michael steadied him. They walked to the parking lot. November sun, bright and cold. Harold's truck sat 3 rows back. Christine's car was gone. Michael stopped at the truck. You okay to drive? Yeah. I'll follow you home. Harold got in his truck, sat with his hands on the wheel. He'd won. Justice served. Truth revealed. Everything he'd fought for. So why did he feel empty? He started the engine. Looked at the hospital in his rearview mirror. His hospital, where he'd spent 35 years of his life. Where Christine had spent hers. Where their marriage had died in a conference room under fluorescent lights. Harold drove home. Michael's rental car followed close behind. 3 days passed in a strange fog. Harold moved through his house like a ghost in his own life. Made coffee, sat on the porch, stared at the cornfields, repeated. Michael stayed, slept in the guest room, made phone calls to Seattle, to lawyers, to the prosecutor's office. handled things Harold couldn't face yet. Saturday morning, the mail came. Official envelope from the county clerk. Harold opened it standing at the mailbox. Restraining order. Dismissed account. Access. Restored. Property. Deed. Corrected. 3 pieces of paper that said he existed again. That he was real, credible, a person with rights. He folded them carefully. Put them in his pocket. Inside, Michael was on the phone. Yeah, the corporate dissolution is filed. Right, all accounts frozen pending asset recovery. She's got a public defender, I think. No, Dad's okay. As okay as he can be. Harold made fresh coffee. The house smelled normal, like it used to, but everything was different. Michael hung up. That was Janet. Prosecutors filing formal charges Monday. Christine's lawyer is negotiating a plea deal. What's she looking at? 5 to 7 years, probably serve 3 with good behavior. 3 years, for 40 years of marriage. Harold sipped his coffee. It tasted like ash. Tuesday came too soon. The Elks Lodge breakfast. Harold had skipped last week. Couldn't face it, but Michael insisted. You can't hide, Dad. You didn't do anything wrong? So Harold shaved, put on a clean shirt, filled his thermos. Michael drove. Want me to come in with you? No. This is something I need to do alone. The parking lot was half full. Bill Morrison's truck in its usual spot. Harold walked in. The bell chimed. Conversations paused, but only for a second. Then Bill Morrison stood, crossed the room. Harold braced for it. Whatever was coming. Bill stopped in front of him, extended his hand. Doc Wade, glad you're back. Harold took his hand. Bill pulled him into a hug. Quick, awkward, genuine. I'm sorry, Bill said quietly. I was a coward. Believe the easy story instead of asking questions. You deserved better from me. Bill, let me finish. Bill stepped back. I've known you 20 years, fished with you, prayed with you, watched you deliver my grandson. I should have believed you. But I didn't, and I'm ashamed of that. He gestured to the corner booth. Your seat's been empty. Nobody sits there. We've been waiting for you to come back. Harold's throat went tight. Bill led him to the booth. Slid a plate across the table. Butter pecan pie. Harold's favorite. Can't undo what happened, Bill said, but I'd like to try again, if you'll let me. Harold looked at the pie, at Bill's weathered face, at the other men watching from their tables. Eddie Santos, Jim Paulson, Rick Dwyer, men who'd turned away when he needed them. You still fish Saturdays? Bill smiled, relief washing over his face. Every week. Pick me up at 6. Deal. The breakfast crowd settled. Conversations resumed. Eddie Santos waved from across the room. Jim Paulson nodded. It wasn't the same. Harold felt the weight of what had happened, the fracture lines that didn't quite heal clean, but it was something. He ate his pie. It tasted real. That afternoon, Harold's phone rang. Reverend Michaels. Harold, I owe you an apology. A big one. Reverend. No, please. Let me say this. A pause. I failed you. I heard Christine's story and I believed her without question. I should have visited you, talked to you directly, not just assumed you needed help. I'm your pastor. I should have known better. Harold listened to the man stumble through his apology. Sincere. Painful. I'd like you to come back to church when you're ready. Not because you have to, but because we need you. I need you to help me remember what believing people looks like. I'll think about it. That's all I can ask. And Harold, I'm praying for you. For real this time. Not the way I prayed before. That pitying prayer for poor, confused Harold. Real prayer. For your healing. Thank you, Jeff. They hung up. Harold sat on the porch. Doris appeared at the fence, watering can in hand. She crossed the lawn without asking, settled into the chair beside him. How was breakfast? Better than I expected. Good. People around here aren't all bad, just scared sometimes. They sat in comfortable silence. This had become their routine. Morning coffee, evening conversation, found family in the wreckage. You saved my life, Harold said. We've been over this. No, I need you to hear it. Harold looked at her. If you hadn't been watching, if you hadn't documented, if you hadn't called Michael, I'd be in a facility right now, medicated, isolated, forgotten. Christine would be in Arizona with Marcus, and nobody would have questioned it. Doris's eyes got wet. My daughter didn't have someone watching. You did. That's the only difference. It's everything. She patted his hand. What are you going to do now? Can't just sit on this porch forever. Harold had been thinking about that. I want to help people. Others going through what I did. How? Consulting maybe. Use my medical background. I understand the tactics now. The gaslighting, the isolation, how they use authority to discredit victims. That knowledge is worth something. Worth a lot, Doris said. You'd be good at that. I've been researching elder abuse advocacy groups. There's a regional network. They connect victims with resources, help them build cases. You should reach out. I did, this morning. They want me to present at a county social services training next month. Doris smiled. Look at you. 3 days out and already turning it into purpose. Have to do something. Can't just be angry forever. Michael appeared in the doorway. Dad, you've got a call. Woman named Patricia Chen from Social Services. Harold went inside, took the phone. Patricia Chen had a kind voice, older, steady. Mr. Wade, I heard about your case. What happened to you is unconscionable, but your testimony could help so many others. Would you be willing to share your story at our training seminar? Talk about it? In front of people? Social workers, law enforcement, medical professionals, people who need to understand how medical authority can be weaponized. How institutional deference protects abusers. Harold thought about it. About standing in front of strangers, admitting how his wife had destroyed him. How he'd almost lost everything. Then he thought about someone else sitting in a truck outside a diner, phone full of unanswered calls, notebook full of desperate hash marks, wondering if they were crazy. Yeah, he said. I'll do it. Thank you. You're going to help a lot of people. After he hung up, Michael hugged him. Proud of you, Dad. It's just talking. It's more than that. It's taking the worst thing that happened to you and using it to protect others. Weekend came. Bill Morrison picked Harold up at 6 a.m. for fishing. They drove to the lake in comfortable silence, set up on the dock with their lines and thermos of coffee. Heard Christine took a plea deal, Bill said. 3 years, out in 18 months with good behavior. Harold watched his line. Yeah. How do you feel about that? I don't know yet. Harold reeled in slowly. Part of me wants her locked up forever. Part of me just feels sad. Sad? 40 years, Bill. We raised a kid together, built a life, and she threw it away because she was tired and scared and couldn't figure out how to just leave. She did more than leave. She tried to destroy you. Yeah, she did. Harold's line tugged. Not a bite. Just current. But she's still the woman I loved. Can't turn that off like a switch. Bill was quiet for a while. You're a better man than me, Doc. I'd want blood. I wanted blood too. For a while. Harold set down his rod. But I'm too old for hate. Takes too much energy. Rather spend it fishing. Bill laughed, raised his coffee in a toast. They fished until noon, caught nothing. Didn't matter. Sunday evening, Harold's phone chimed. Text from Michael. Photo attached. Emma and Jacob holding fishing rods, grinning at the camera. Text. Kids want to know when they can go fishing with Grandpa. Sarah says we're coming for Thanksgiving if that's okay. I'll cook the turkey. Harold stared at the photo. His grandkids. He barely knew them. 15 years of distance, Christine's manipulation, his own pride. But Michael was offering a bridge. Harold typed slowly with 2 thumbs. Come for Thanksgiving. I'll make the sides. You bring the family. Response came fast. Can't wait, Dad. Love you. Love you too, son. Harold set down his phone, looked around his house, still empty, still echoing with 40 years of marriage that ended in betrayal. But also, Michael's jacket on the coat rack. Doris's coffee cup in the sink from this morning. Bill's phone number saved under Saturday fishing. Not the family he'd planned on, but family nonetheless. Harold went to the kitchen, pulled out his mother's old recipe box, found the Thanksgiving stuffing recipe, the green bean casserole, the pumpkin pie. He hadn't cooked Thanksgiving in 40 years. Christine always did it. Time to learn. He spread the recipe cards on the table, made a shopping list. Outside, the sun set over the cornfields, gold fading to purple. The world continuing its rotation, indifferent to human drama. But Harold was still here, still standing, still breathing, still capable of hosting Thanksgiving and teaching grandkids to fish and helping strangers avoid his fate. Christine had tried to erase him. She'd failed. That was worth something. Maybe it was worth everything. 6 months later, Harold woke to November cold and the smell of coffee brewing downstairs. For a second, just a second, he forgot. Thought maybe Christine was up early, making breakfast like she used to. Then he remembered. Michael was here. Had driven in from Seattle yesterday with Sarah and the kids. Thanksgiving week. Harold dressed. Found Michael in the kitchen, hair still messy from sleep, pouring coffee into 2 mugs. "Morning, Dad. You sleep okay?" "Better than I have in months." They took their coffee to the porch. Frost on the grass, sun just starting to paint the sky. "Kids are excited," Michael said. "Emma hasn't stopped talking about fishing. Jacob wants to see your old medical bag. It's in the closet. Hasn't been opened in 3 years. Maybe time to show him. He's thinking about being a doctor when he grows up." Harold sipped his coffee. Thought about that. His grandson, carrying on the family tradition, something Christine couldn't steal. "She's getting out next month," Michael said quietly. "Mom, early release for good behavior." Harold nodded. He knew. The prosecutor had called last week to inform him. "You going to see her?" "I don't know." Harold watched the sun climb. "Part of me wants to, part of me never wants to see her again. Both things can be true." "Yeah." They sat in silence. Doris appeared from her house, crossing the lawn with a covered dish. "Brought pies for tomorrow," she announced. "Pumpkin and pecan. Don't argue, I already made them." She settled into the chair on Harold's other side. Her chair now had been for 6 months. "Morning, Doris," Michael said. "You're up early." "Old habits. Your father's got me on his schedule now." The three of them sat watching the day arrive. Easy, comfortable, family. Tuesday morning, Harold drove to the Elks Lodge. Bill was already at their booth, coffee pot ready. "Morning, Doc." "Morning, Bill." They didn't talk much. Didn't need to anymore. The breach had healed, not perfectly, but enough. Eddie Santos stopped by their table. "Heard you're speaking at the State Social Services Conference next month, that right?" "Yeah. They asked me to present on medical authority abuse." "That's good. Real good." Eddie shifted. "My aunt's going through something similar. Son-in-law trying to get her declared incompetent. I gave her your number." "Hope that's okay." "More than okay." Eddie nodded. Left them to their breakfast. Harold's phone buzzed. Email from Patricia Chen at Social Services. "Mr. Wade, I wanted to update you on the impact of your work. Since your first training session, we've identified and intervened in 14 cases of elder abuse. Your testimony helped caseworkers recognize the patterns. You're saving lives." Harold showed Bill. "Proud of you, Doc. Turning poison into medicine." "Trying to." The bacon tasted good this morning. Real. The coffee was hot. Bill told a story about his grandson's baseball game. Normal things. Harold had learned to appreciate normal. Thanksgiving Day arrived cold and bright. Harold's kitchen was chaos. Michael at the stove, Sarah mashing potatoes, Emma setting the table with Doris's supervision, Jacob underfoot asking questions about everything. "Grandpa, why do you have so many old medical books?" "Because medicine changes." "Have to keep learning, even when you're retired?" "Especially then." The turkey came out golden. Michael carved while Harold watched. His son had learned well. Steady hands, confident movements. They gathered at the table. 8 people where there used to be 2. Michael's family, Doris, Bill Morrison, who'd been invited last minute when Harold learned he'd be alone. "Should we say grace?" Sarah asked. Everyone looked at Harold. He hadn't said grace in months, hadn't been to church since before everything fell apart. But he bowed his head. "Lord, thank you for this food. Thank you for second chances. Thank you for the people who show up when it matters." His voice caught. "Thank you for family, the one you're born into and the one you find. Amen." "Amen," they echoed. The meal was loud. Emma spilled gravy. Jacob asked for thirds. Sarah and Doris argued good-naturedly about pie recipes. Bill told fishing stories that got bigger with each telling. Michael caught Harold's eye across the table. Smiled. Harold smiled back. This was what Christine couldn't take. This was what survived. After dinner, after dishes, after pie and coffee, Harold found himself on the porch again, alone this time. The house warm and lit behind him, voices drifting through the windows. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. Harold almost ignored it, then answered. "Mr. Wade?" A man's voice. Young. Scared. "My name is Robert Chen. Your number was given to me by social services. My wife. She's trying to have me declared incompetent. I don't know what to do. I don't know who to trust." Harold heard himself in that voice. The desperation, the doubt. "Take a breath, Robert. You're not crazy, and you're not alone." "How do you know?" "Because I've been where you are, and I'm going to help you." They talked for 40 minutes. Harold took notes, made a plan. Connected Robert with Janet Reeves with the Elder Abuse Hotline with documentation strategies. When they hung up, Harold felt it, purpose, meaning pulled from wreckage. The door opened. Michael stepped out. "Everything okay?" "Yeah, just helping someone." Michael sat. "You do that a lot now." "Trying to. Figure if I went through hell, might as well bring back a map for others." "Mom's lawyer called me today." Harold's chest tightened. "What did she want?" "Said Mom wants to see you when she gets out. Wants to apologize." "What do you think I should do?" "I think you should do whatever helps you heal." Michael looked at his hands. "I'm not ready to see her yet. Maybe never. She used me. Stole years I can't get back. That's going to take time. And if you're never ready, then I'm never ready. You don't owe forgiveness to people who tried to destroy you." Harold thought about that. About Christine and Terre Haute, serving time, losing everything she'd schemed for. "Maybe I'll see her. Eventually, not because she deserves it, but because I need to look her in the eye and know I survived." "You more than survived, Dad. You're thriving." Was he? Harold looked around. At his porch, his fields, his house full of people. At Michael beside him. At Doris visible through the window, laughing at something Sarah said. At his phone with Robert Chen's number saved. Another person who needed help. Another life he might save. "Yeah," Harold said. "Maybe I am." Later, after everyone had gone to bed, Harold stood in his kitchen, made one last cup of coffee. The house was quiet but not empty. Michael's family asleep upstairs. Doris had stayed in the guest room. Her room now, practically. Harold took his coffee to the porch, sat in the dark, watching stars come out. 40 years of marriage, gone. Reputation shredded, then rebuilt. Savings stolen, then recovered. Son estranged, then returned. He'd lost everything and found it again. Different, but real. The coffee was hot in his hands. Black, no sugar. The way he'd always drunk it. He could taste it now. For months after Christine left, everything had tasted like ash. But somewhere along the way, between helping Robert Chen and hosting Thanksgiving and teaching Emma to bait a hook, his sense of taste had returned. The coffee was bitter, but it was real. And that was enough. Harold closed his eyes, felt the November cold on his face, heard the house settling behind him, full of sleeping family, heard his own heartbeat, steady and strong. Christine had diagnosed their marriage as terminal. She'd been right about that, but she'd been wrong about him. Harold Wade wasn't terminal. He was just beginning. His phone lit up. Text from Michael. Photo. Emma and Jacob asleep on the couch, tangled in blankets. Text. Thanks for giving them a grandfather, Dad. They love you. Harold typed back. I love them too. Sleep well, son. He set down his phone, picked up his coffee. Tomorrow he'd take the kids fishing, show Jacob his old medical bag, call Robert Chen to check in. Maybe even drive to church, see if Reverend Michael's handshake was still genuine. Tomorrow he'd keep living, but tonight he'd sit on his porch, drink his coffee, and be grateful. For second chances. For people who believed him when it mattered. For the difference between existing and living. Harold Wade had learned that difference the hard way, and he'd never forget it again. The stars wheeled overhead. The coffee went cold in his hands. But Harold stayed on the porch, watching the world turn, knowing he was still part of it. Morning came the way it always did. Harold woke before dawn, made coffee in the quiet kitchen, careful not to wake his sleeping house. Carried his cup to the porch. The ritual hadn't changed in 40 years. Just the man performing it. He sat in his chair, the same chair where he'd sat the morning Christine brought Marcus home, the same chair where Doris had brought evidence, the same chair where he'd read Michael's text about coming home. Some things stay constant while everything else burns down and rebuilds. The coffee was hot, real. Harold could taste the bitterness, the earth, the morning itself. For months after Christine left, he couldn't taste anything, just ash and absence. But somewhere between losing everything and finding it again, his senses had returned. Not the same. Different. Better, maybe. He'd learned things in the fire. That silence isn't surrender. That being believed matters more than being right. That family isn't always blood. Sometimes it's a neighbor with a camera and a grandson of your own who drives through the night because you need him. That dignity can't be taken, only surrendered. And Harold had never surrendered. The sun broke over the cornfields, painting everything gold, same fields he'd watched for 40 years, but they looked different now. Or maybe he did. Inside, someone stirred. Footsteps on the stairs. Emma's voice. Is Grandpa awake? Michael's reply. Probably on the porch. That's where he always is. Harold smiled. Let them find him here. Let them see that some men survive the unsurvivable and come out the other side still capable of dawn, still capable of coffee, still capable of love. The screen door opened. Emma appeared, bedhead and pajamas. Morning, Grandpa. Morning, sweetheart. She climbed into his lap, fit perfectly like she'd always belonged there. What are you doing? Just watching the sun come up. Why? Because I can. Emma considered this, accepted it, settled against his chest. They sat together while the world woke up. Grandfather and granddaughter. Past and future. Survival and hope, wrapped in a moment of November cold and coffee steam and light spreading across fields that had seen everything and kept growing anyway. Harold closed his eyes, breathed deep. He'd made it. Through the diagnosis that wasn't real, the calls that went unanswered, the community that turned away, the wife who became a stranger, the son who came home, the neighbor who saved him, the fight that nearly broke him. He'd made it to the other side. And the other side looked like this. A porch, a child, a sunrise, a cup of coffee that tasted real because he was still here to taste it. Christine had tried to erase him, but erasure only works if you let it. Harold had refused, and in refusing, he'd discovered something Christine never understood. You can't kill a man who knows his own worth. Emma yawned against his chest. I love you, Grandpa. I love you too, sweetheart. The sun climbed higher. The coffee went cold. But Harold stayed on his porch, holding his granddaughter, watching the light spread across everything he'd almost lost and everything he'd fought to keep. Still here, still whole, still enough, and that right there was everything.